The sky burned above the shattered city of Loomis Prime, the last colony of the Zither on the fringe of Coalition space. Towering spires of iridescent crystal, once a testament to Zither ingenuity, crumbled under the relentless assault of the Vrexal Swarm. Commander Therax of the Zither stood on a high observation deck, his multifaceted eyes scanning the battlefield. Below, the Coalition's finest forces, a mix of telepathic Erythri soldiers, the reptilian Dravok artillery units, and Zither infantry, fought valiantly. But it wasn't enough. They adapt too quickly, Therax muttered, his mandibles clicking in frustration. Every strategy we've employed, every tactic they've countered within hours. Strategist Velerin, an Erythri whose gelatinous form shimmered with unease, floated beside him. We underestimated their capacity to assimilate our technology and strategy. The Vrexal are not a simple foe. They are a plague. The observation deck shook as another explosion rocked the station. Therax braced himself, his compound eyes narrowing. If we don't find a new solution soon, the Coalition will fall. We need an alternative. Velerin's bioluminescent tendrils pulsed faintly. There is one option left, though it is unorthodox. Therax turned toward her sharply. Speak. Velerin hesitated, then gestured toward a holographic display. The image shifted to a view of Earth, a blue and green orb nestled in the galactic backwaters. The humans have offered their assistance. They claim to have forces specialized in unconventional warfare. Therax emitted a low, dissonant hum, his species equivalent of a scoff. Humans? They are barely more than primitives. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Perhaps, Velerin conceded. But their ambassador insists they possess a quality we lack. Resilience. Ingenuity. Desperation, Therax muttered. He stared at the battlefield below, the Vrexal overwhelming yet another defensive line. The Coalition was out of time and options. Summon them, he said finally. If they fail, the loss will be theirs, not ours. The Coalition War Council convened in a stark chamber aboard the Central Command Station. Representatives from every major species filled the room, their holographic projections buzzing with tension. At the center stood a group of humans, their uniforms dark and functional, a stark contrast to the ornate attire of the Coalition officers. Major Evelyn Carter stepped forward, her stance firm, her gaze unwavering. Thank you for this opportunity to prove ourselves, she began, her voice steady despite the skepticism radiating from her audience. Therax leaned forward, his mandibles clicking disdainfully. You have been briefed on the situation. What can your special forces offer that our advanced armies cannot? Carter met his gaze unflinchingly. Your armies are fighting a conventional war against an unconventional enemy. The Vrexal don't play by the rules and neither do we. The room murmured with discontent. Velerin's voice rose above the noise, calm but curious. What exactly does that mean, Major Carter? Carter gestured to her team. It means adapting to the enemy in real time. Corporal Lee here is an expert in cyber warfare. He'll disrupt their hive mind communication systems. Lieutenant Patel is a master of guerrilla tactics. She'll create chaos behind enemy lines. And Sergeant Novak, she nodded toward a burly man whose expression was as unyielding as stone. He'll make sure anything we can't use gets blown to hell. Therax clicked his mandibles again. Crude. Reckless. You speak of tactics that lack precision or logic. Crude and reckless work against an enemy that's never faced it before, Carter retorted. Give us one mission. One chance. If we fail, you lose nothing. If we succeed, we buy you time. The room fell silent. Finally, Velerin pulsed with a soft, approving glow. One mission, she agreed. A heavily fortified Vrexal mining colony on Zereth 4. Destroy their resource network. The Coalition has deemed it impossible, but if your methods are as effective as you claim, we shall see. Carter nodded. We'll leave immediately. As the human team prepared to depart, Carter stood with Therax on the station's hangar deck. The Zither commander watched impassively as the humans loaded their gear into a transport ship. Do not mistake this trial for trust, Major, Therax said. If you fail, the Coalition will not waste resources on your species again. Carter turned to face him, her expression calm but fierce. We won't fail. And when we succeed, Commander, you might just learn something from us. The ship's engines roared to life, drowning out any reply Therax might have had. As the transport lifted off, Velerin appeared beside him. Do you think they'll succeed? She asked softly. Therax's gaze lingered on the retreating ship. I think they'll die trying. Whether that will be enough remains to be seen. For the first time, the galaxy was about to see what humanity was truly capable of. The barren surface of Zereth 4 stretched endlessly under a blood-red sky, its jagged terrain scarred by years of Vrexal mining operations. The mining colony loomed ahead, a sprawling complex of metallic spires and pulsating energy conduits. Deep within, the Vrexal were refining vital resources to fuel their relentless war machine. The Coalition had deemed the facility impenetrable, but for Major Evelyn Carter and her Special Forces team, impossible was an invitation. The human transport ship hovered low over a canyon a few kilometers from the colony. Inside, the team prepared in grim silence. Carter stood at the center, her voice calm and steady as she laid out the plan. Listen up. Our objective is to destroy the refinery's main energy conduit, crippling the Vrexal's resource production. We'll split into 3 teams. Patel, you and your squad will create a diversion at the south gate. Draw as much attention as you can. Novak, you're on demolition. Plant charges along the main pipeline. Lee, you're with me. We'll infiltrate the control center and disrupt their systems to cover our retreat. Standard suicide mission, Novak muttered, checking the charges in his pack. His tone was gruff, but a faint smirk betrayed his confidence. Patel tightened the strap on her helmet and gave a sharp nod. We've done worse. Carter's gaze swept over her team. Stay sharp, stay alive. And remember, this isn't just about us. If we fail, the Coalition loses its last chance to stop the Vrexal. Let's move. The assault began with Patel's team. From a ridge overlooking the south gate, they launched a barrage of improvised explosives, sending plumes of fire and smoke into the air. The Vrexal responded immediately, deploying swarms of drones and cyber-organic ground troops to repel the attack. Patel's squad, nimble and resourceful, led the enemy on a chase through the rocky terrain, their movements calculated to maximize chaos. Inside the colony, Carter and Lee slipped through maintenance tunnels, their movements swift and silent. Lee carried a portable hacking device, its crude human design a stark contrast to the sleek alien technology surrounding them. We're nearing the control center, Carter whispered. Status? Lee's fingers flew across the device. Just tapped into their network. They're rerouting forces to Patel's location. We've got a clear window, but it won't last. They reached the control room, a cavernous chamber filled with glowing consoles and pulsating energy conduits. Lee got to work, his device interfacing with the Vrexal systems. This coding is insane, he muttered. It's like they think in 3 dimensions at once. But I've got something. Virus is uploading. Make it fast, Carter said, scanning the room. Meanwhile, Novak was deep within the pipeline corridors, planting charges with methodical precision. He worked quickly, knowing that every second counted. The eerie hum of the Vrexal's machinery echoed around him, a constant reminder of the enemy's presence. As he set the final charge, his comm crackled. Novak, this is Carter. Status? Charges are set, he replied. Heading to exfil now. Good. Patel's diversion worked, but the clock's ticking. Meet us at the rendezvous? The retreat was anything but smooth. The Vrexal had begun to adapt, rerouting forces to intercept the humans. Patel's team, now heavily outnumbered, fought desperately to hold their ground. We're pinned down? Patel shouted over the comms. We need an exit. Hold tight, Carter replied, her voice steady despite the chaos. She turned to Lee. Can you trigger the refinery's defenses remotely? Lee grinned. Already on it? Moments later, the colony's automated turrets activated, turning on the Vrexal forces with brutal efficiency. Patel's team seized the opportunity, falling back to the extraction point. The charges detonated as the humans lifted off, a chain reaction of explosions tearing through the refinery. From the safety of their transport, the team watched as the colony collapsed into a fiery inferno. Exhausted but victorious, Carter leaned back in her seat, her gaze fixed on the destruction below. One mission down, she said quietly. But this war is far from over. Her words hung in the air as the transport sped away, leaving behind the first human victory against the Vrexal. The Coalition war room buzzed with activity. Holographic displays flickered with tactical updates, and alien officers moved with tense purpose. At the center of it all, Major Evelyn Carter stood alongside Commander Therax and Strategist Velerin. A fresh wave of hostility crackled in the air as they reviewed the outcome of the Zereth 4 mission. The mining colony is destroyed and the Vrexal's resource chain is crippled, Carter reported, her tone matter-of-fact. As promised? Therax's mandibles twitched. Your methods were effective, but they left collateral damage. Hundreds of Vrexal drones were not neutralized and will regroup. Your recklessness could have compromised the Coalition. Recklessness? Carter's eyes narrowed. Your precision strategies weren't doing the job, Commander. We delivered results. Velarin's bioluminescent tendrils pulsed faintly, a sign of unease. The Major is correct. The outcome speaks for itself. However, the Vrexal will adapt to these new tactics. We must strike again before they recover. Therax turned away, his wings flicking in irritation. And what do you propose? More human improvisation? Carter stepped forward, her jaw tight. You need a surgical strike on the Vrexal fleet, targeting their command structure. My team can infiltrate their flagship, disrupt their coordination, and buy your forces time to regroup. Silence settled over the room as Velarin considered the proposal. Finally she nodded. Very well. But understand, Major, this mission may decide the fate of the Coalition. The human transport ship approached the Vrexal fleet under the cover of a Coalition diversionary attack. The flagship loomed ahead, a monstrous amalgamation of metal and organic matter, its surface pulsating with a sinister glow. Inside the cramped transport, Carter briefed her team. This is as dangerous as it gets, she said, her voice steady. Our objective is simple. Infiltrate, plant EMP charges on their command nexus and get out. Novak, you're on demolition. Patel, you'll lead the extraction. Lee, you'll hack their navigation systems to buy us an escape window. Questions? When no one spoke, Carter's gaze softened. This isn't just about us. It's about the Coalition, the galaxy, and everyone back home. Let's show them what humans are made of. The team nodded as one. The infiltration began smoothly. Using grappling gear and thermal-cloaked suits, the humans bypassed the flagship's outer defenses. Once inside, the ship's eerie, biomechanical corridors were a stark reminder of the enemy's alien nature. The Vrexal seemed to breathe through their technology. Every surface pulsed with a rhythmic energy that made the air feel alive. Stay sharp, Carter whispered, leading the group deeper into the ship. Reaching the command nexus, Novak planted the EMP charges with practiced precision. Charges set, he said, his voice steady despite the sweat on his brow. Time to move, Carter ordered. But as they retreated, the Vrexal adapted. Drones swarmed the corridors, cutting off their escape routes. The humans fought fiercely, using every weapon and tactic at their disposal, but the enemy's numbers were overwhelming. Go? Carter shouted, covering her team as they pushed toward the extraction point. Not without you. Novak bellowed, but Carter shook her head. This is an order, Sergeant, she barked. Get the charges detonated and secure the escape. Reluctantly, Novak obeyed, leading the team to safety. The EMP charges detonated seconds after the humans escaped. The flagship convulsed as its systems failed, disrupting the Vrexal fleet's coordination. Coalition forces seized the advantage, routing the enemy. On board the human transport, silence reigned as the team counted their losses. Novak sat with his head in his hands, his usual bravado gone. She didn't have to stay behind, he muttered. She did, Patel said quietly. That's who she was. As the transport docked with the Coalition station, Therax and Velarin awaited them. The Zither commander's expression was unreadable as he addressed the survivors. She fulfilled her promise, Therax said solemnly. Your Major Carter proved that humanity is more than we believed. Velarin's tendrils pulsed softly. She made the ultimate sacrifice, and in doing so, she may have turned the tide of this war. Novak clenched his fists. Then we make sure it wasn't in vain. The price of victory weighed heavily on the humans, but their resolve burned brighter than ever. The Coalition command station orbited a dying star, its light flickering like the hope of the Allied forces. The destruction of the Vrexal flagship had bought time, but not enough. Now, the swarm had retaliated with a vengeance, sending their entire fleet toward the station. The Coalition's survival hinged on this final stand. Commander Therax addressed the assembled leaders in the war room, his voice resonating with urgency. The Vrexal know if they destroy the station they decapitate the Coalition. We must defend it at all costs. The hologram of strategist Velarin rippled with nervous energy. Their fleet outnumbers ours 5-1. Our defenses won't hold without a decisive advantage. Novak, standing near the edge of the room, broke his silence. His voice was hoarse, but his determination was unyielding. We'll give you that advantage. Carter's gone, but her plan isn't. My team will lead the ground defense while you focus on the fleet. We'll hold the station. Therax turned his compound eyes on the soldier, his expression unreadable. Your tactics are chaotic and your losses unacceptable. But your results cannot be denied. Very well, Sergeant Novak. The defense is yours. Novak nodded grimly. Let's get to work. The station's corridors buzzed with frantic activity as humans and coalition soldiers prepared for battle. Novak, now the de facto leader of the special forces, gathered his team in the armory. Patel, Lee, and a few remaining soldiers stood ready, their faces set with grim determination. "We've been here before," Novak began. "Outnumbered, outgunned. But we're still standing. We've got one job: keep the Vrexal off this station long enough for the fleet to punch through. We'll use every dirty trick Carter taught us and we'll make them pay for every inch." Lee smirked, his fingers dancing over a portable hacking device. "Got a few nasty surprises for their systems. Let's see how their hive mind likes a virus tailored by yours truly." Patel checked her rifle, her expression steely. "We hit them hard and fast. Keep them off balance. No mercy." Novak nodded. "You know what to do. Let's move." The Vrexal assault began like a tidal wave, their biomechanical drones flooding the station's outer hull. Coalition turrets blazed, cutting down wave after wave, but the enemy kept coming. Inside the station, Novak's team turned every corridor into a battlefield. Booby traps and improvised explosives transformed choke points into death traps. Lee hacked the station's automated systems, using maintenance drones and security turrets to harass the invaders. Patel led hit-and-run strikes, her squad moving like shadows through the chaos. "Keep pushing," she shouted, her voice cutting through the din. "They don't stop, and neither do we." Despite their efforts, the Vrexal began to overwhelm the defenders. In the command center, Therax watched the battle unfold, his mandibles clicking anxiously. "If the humans fail, the station will fall." Velerin pulsed softly. "They won't fail. Humanity thrives where others would surrender." The battle reached its climax in the central power core. Novak and his team made their stand, holding the line against a relentless onslaught. With every shot, every explosion, they gave the coalition fleet more time to break the Vrexal's forces. Novak, bloodied but unbroken, detonated a final charge, collapsing a corridor and cutting off the last wave of drones. Breathing heavily, he looked at Patel. "That's it. They're done." She nodded, exhaustion etched on her face. "And so are we." In orbit, the coalition fleet rallied, using the time bought by the defenders to shatter the Vrexal formation. As the enemy retreated, cheers erupted across the station. Back in the war room, Therax stood before the surviving special forces. His tone was somber but respectful. "You have proven humanity's worth beyond doubt. Your resilience, your ingenuity, it saved us all." Novak, battered but defiant, met the commander's gaze. "We did our job. Now let's finish this war." As the coalition prepared for its final offensive, humanity had cemented its place as the galaxy's unexpected savior.